What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to Arsenal Football Club, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. In this video, I'm taking a look ahead to tomorrow's must-win game away to West Ham at the London Stadium and discussing potential injury lineups as well as the press conference that Arteta gave and anything else that may feature into that game. Also, before we do that, though, it's worth pointing out the context that we're likely to play that game in. Man City host Leicester City today, and should they win it, which of course is the likeliest outcome, they will be level on games played with us briefly, albeit, and likely to have won that game, and therefore only 3 points behind us. So we are still 3 points ahead with the same number of games, and that is one of the things I want to address first. Is the bookies have now made Man City slight favourites, but that of course is because they host us. There's no question Etihad is a difficult place to go. But, if it comes down to having to go there to get a draw in order to become champions, and it won't be settled on the night anyway, but that's eminently possible. It's really too close to call. And I want to say that the kind of punditry where everybody's looking at the remaining fixtures, no question City have more straightforward fixtures than we do. Fewer tricky games. Of course they host us. That's got to be the toughest game in their run-in. But we have the tougher fixtures. To say, though, that you think that Man City are going to win every single game, that's statistically improbable. It's less likely than them dropping points. Now, I don't know where they're going to drop points, and certainly looking at their fixtures, do I think that they're going to go away to Everton and drop points? No, I don't really think that game by game, but I think that you have to go with the probability here that they are going to drop some points. Hopefully they drop at least 2 points to us. Hopefully they drop 4 points in total, which takes a lot of the pressure off us when we go to places like Newcastle. Certainly, though, tomorrow it's looking likely that Leicester City will lose by more than a couple of goals, which puts the goal difference very much in favour of Man City. They're already 5 better than us with a plus 48 to our plus 43. If, as predicted, they do score at least 4 goals against Leicester, who, frankly, are in terrible form. 1 draw in the last 8 games, all they've been able to manage, only scoring 4 goals. You do think that this is the most foregone conclusion in football. I know it's a funny old game. I know anyone can beat anyone, but I've enlisted the help of the Gooner channel's very own AI in this one. Gooner channel AI, can you tell me, do Leicester have any chance at all in the game at the Etihad?
There is no chance.
Okay, well, what do you mean no chance?
I have run over 1 million simulations and Leicester win less than 1% of the time.
All right. When you say less, how much less?
Much less. 0.0000001%. Tottenham are statistically more likely to win the league. Rick Arlison is more likely to finish as the league's top goal scorer. It's more likely to start raining fish. In fact, that's one of the few scenarios where Leicester do win at City. A sudden downpour of mackerel.
Okay, well, so, it's not going to happen. We are in all likelihood going into the West Ham match tomorrow with a must-win. And, realistically, all of these games coming up are must-wins unless they drop some points. It would be fantastic if that could happen. But the reality is, I'm saying 4-0 City beat City. Therefore, they are on a plus 52 goal difference compared to our plus 43. And it's unlikely from here on in that we're going to overhaul that kind of goal difference against the free-scoring Manchester City side. So, what is a likely lineup tomorrow? Now, first and foremost, Arteta in his press conference did say that Eddie Nketiah would likely make the bench. He's been training with the team, so he's back to full fitness. Of course, El Nenny's still not in the running, but neither is apparently William Saliba. Now, I caught quite a bit of flack during the Liverpool game for speaking my mind and saying that I thought Rob Holding was, I think I said, woefully out of his depth. Certainly, that's a bit harsh, maybe, but out of his depth, certainly. And I just want to address that because some of the criticism I got actually made me quite happy, because it's great to think that we're a fan base who won't let anyone say anything bad about any of our players at any time ever. However, All I'm trying to say is that had we had Rob Holding in the starting lineup for every game that Saliba played this season, I don't think we'd be 3 points clear at the top of the table even after the game tonight. So all I'm saying is that in order to win titles, we need Saliba to be fit. And look, for the FA Cup game where we made the 6 changes and Rob Holding played up that centre-back, I thought he did a great job. There were a few moments that scared the life out of me with him marking Erling Haaland. But overall, I think he did a great job until he was subbed. Realistically, though, we do not want to go into that game at the Etihad with City on the kind of form they're in right now and have Rob Holding as our centre-back alongside Gabriel. It isn't so much that I think he is going to give away a penalty or something like that. I don't necessarily blame him for the penalty at Anfield. It's just that he didn't win that many of his duels. The headers he does clear the ball away often don't really go where you want them to. And he's certainly not calm in the way Saliba is, and his distribution is unfair to compare the two. So I'm grateful to all of you for any comments, and particularly anyone who wants to pull me apart for saying Rob Holding is not a champion, not the kind of centre-back you expect to win championships with. But that is my feeling. And whilst I don't necessarily fear going into the game against West Ham tomorrow, even less after their uninspiring draw against Ghent, and memories still of the Newcastle visit to the London Stadium where the fans were filing out, where the home fans were filing out after about 70 minutes, and they were woeful that day. The only other thing to say about that is that Newcastle playing with Isak and with Callum Wilson looked like they might start scoring goals, which is not something you want to think before we go up there. Newcastle, absolutely fantastic side, only conceding 9 goals at home all season. It's already going to be tough for us when we go there. I'm going to get into talking about that another time. For tomorrow's lineup, I don't see any reason at all why he's going to change the side that he took to Anfield. I think that we've had the week to rest. It's probably done them some good. They've gone over things. The mood in the camp seems good, and certainly the way they started at Anfield, if we can start similarly quickly and similarly well against West Ham, it's very unlikely West Ham will be able to bring that kind of fight. I would expect tomorrow's result to go our way 9 times out of 10. There are always things that can get in the way of that, in the same way that Leicester City might find themselves playing against 9 men because of a strange aberration where 2 City players get sent off. Anything can happen, but I think the likeliest starting lineup, of course, is the one that started against Anfield, and that's Rob Holding at the back. Clearly, Kivior is not somebody they think is ready. Again, probably more of a replacement for Gabriel than for Saliba anyway. And, Rob Holding is a very able squad player. I think he's good enough to be in the back 4 against West Ham tomorrow. So no changes from Ramsdale. The big worry for us at the moment is if anything were to happen to Ben White. There's a lot of talk in the papers this week about there's a lot of talk in the social media this week about Rule Walters being prepared. He seems like he's close to a first team, but that's really for next season, and they're going to play him in the pre-seasons. A very promising right back indeed, but not somebody you'd want to have to come in if Ben White picked up any kind of injury. And so we're all really fingers crossed that Ben White gets through these next 8 games without picking up a knock of any kind at all. Hopefully we can get a sufficiently large lead tomorrow that we're not worried, and maybe we'll even see Rule Walters get a bit of a run out tomorrow. But Ben White is our right back and our only right back. Holding, as I said, in the centre-back position next to Gabriel Magalhaes, and Zinchenko at left-back. The other thing I want to talk about from the Anfield game is, now look, I know the players probably don't run their own social media, but it bothers me Zinchenko apologising. It bothers me watching him burst into tears. Obviously, he's a high-strung individual and somebody who's contributed massively to our lofty league position this season, but this is a team game. We win together, we lose together. I include the fans in that. We did not lose our lead at Liverpool just because of Zinchenko. There is a thought that perhaps Arteta could have made changes sooner. I'm wary of talking about that too much because it feels like being smart after the event. During the game, honestly, as I was watching it, I tried to put myself in Arteta's position, thought, what would I do here? And I was kind of frozen. I really didn't know how you would stop the onslaught of Liverpool. Certainly, I think with a game like we expect to play against West Ham, with Declan Rice in the midfield, and I know more than a few of us are going to be watching to see how he plays against us, I would expect Zinchenko to start. The midfield seems to pick itself. If everyone's fit, it's going to be Granit Xhaka, Thomas Partey and Martin Odegaard. And up front, look, Gabby Jesus, just an awesome player for us to have. Just like, he's one of the finest footballers to wear an Arsenal shirt on the few up front. Look, I'm not the only person who is up front. I don't think I'm the only person who thinks that Saka and Martinelli are the two best wingers in the world right now. And having Gabby Jesus up front, there's magic. I know it's tough on Leandro Trossard because, in any other team at any other time, he'd certainly be making a bid. He has to be a strong contender for a starting spot with his contributions to goals. But I think you start with Gabby and then you bring on Leo wherever you might feel that you need a bit more of an impetus. So that's the starting lineup. It's great to see Eddie could make the bench. There is hope and reason to be optimistic about Saliba, possibly even for Southampton, but certainly for the Etihad game in only 11 days now. This title is going to be wrapped up by then. Predictions, I don't think that we have too much to worry about. I'm hoping for a 3-0. I can see West Ham scoring. It's not something that I expect to happen. I'm going to stick my neck out and say 3-0. And I do still feel, I feel more confident about this run-in than I did because of that Liverpool game. I think if we can go to Anfield, which is a very difficult place to go and get a point, then I don't see why we can't do it at the Etihad as well. I honestly think that if of those two venues, it might be the Anfield one that's the hardest. Of course, City are in good form. When asked about it, Pep Guardiola said he actually thinks they play better when they're playing every 3 days. At a certain point, there are factors in this. Does fatigue kick in? Does the number of games they've got kick in? Does their being more focused on a possible Champions League final, does that attract away their focus at the end of the season? All these things are possible. The bookies have made Man City favourites. The bookies not always right. And in this case, it's a very close to call situation. I'm going to be watching the game between Man City and Leicester tonight with my fingers crossed, my toes crossed and everything else. And let's see if we can't get some positive news to go into tomorrow's game away to West Ham. Anyway, until then, be lucky and lots of love.